Hi, folks. Whoa, we're falling. This is sort of an appreciation post for parts of my replica prop hobby. Let me straighten this out here. That's better. So one of the interesting factors about this hobby is the sheer fact that sometimes we move from sculpting a replica, maybe out of machined metal, right? This was a solid piece of metal, and somebody went through and lathed, or CNC at this point in time, but they CNC'd the right shape. And this is one out of one solid piece of metal. A lot of replica stuff is like that. There's a step beyond that where it's made out of the same parts if it is a found part lightsaber, like a camera flash, decorated the same way they did, with the same interesting parts, and then literally finished to be a near duplicate of the filming prop because it was made from a found item. That's a pretty special thing. This has the same weight and the same temperature in your hands because it's literally the same old item from an antique store. And that is pretty special. But there's an even further direction that we've gone, at least the replica prop form has gone. A very talented buddy of mine has gone beyond making things from the original parts, but making them from the original types of materials. For whatever reason, the Obi-Wan stunt sabers were cast in metal, like an old industrial part. There was a wooden master, and then aluminum was melted down, some alloy of aluminum, and poured into a sand cast or a lost wax casting, like an old machine part, like an old piece of jewelry. That's kind of a unique thing. So we noticed that every replica that was turned on a lathe or that was CNC'd didn't quite have the same look, the same feeling as the original items, until a friend of mine decided to learn how to do that. And I have a few of his casts here, and these are cast and then put on a lathe and then cleaned up with lathing tools, basically. And you can literally see, I mean, the red is from his marker marks, but there are pock marks in this. Let's see if those show up on camera. It's not a perfect, look at that. There are voids. There are areas where the alloy was not pure. It's quite astounding, especially right there. Yeah. You can see the milling marks of where he cleaned out these channels. It's stunning. It is stunning. I even have another version here that is made in the style of what Mark Hamill fought with in Return of the Jedi in the throne room at the very end. They were still using Obi-Wan stunts at the time. Here we go. And here you can see the seam line from the cast. And the dirty, this is the texture of sand on the inside of those rings. And you'll see that on the prop today. There's part of the seam line through the grips here. I don't know if you, there it is, right along here. It's remarkable. It is very, very cool. And the interesting thing to me is that this is even closer to a prop that was machined like this. This has the same weight, the same temperature and texture as the actual V3 in the archives today, or any other Obi-Wan stunts that are floating out there. That is an extra special replica right there. And the interesting thing is it's hard to duplicate that, even with machined from stock replicas, because I don't know, it's not just the look and the weight. There's something else. It's that collection of sensory input that you get when you hold something like this. a cast item does feel different than a machined directly from stock item. And it's interesting, I've had other replicas throughout the years. And we get them as kits, right? The heavy duty machining is done by somebody else, and then we get to finish it, fit it together. This actually is separated the way the V2 is today, and there was some work that I did on that. The rod goes down to about here. It's the pommel's a separate piece too. There's some work that we do on these, but there's just something so special about working on something that is made the same unique way as that prop was. Well, there were a bunch of them made. They did duplicates. So there's a few sisters that show up, brothers and sisters that show up filming. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. So thank you. You know who you are. And I will see you guys another time.